Hello everyone, it's Troop Gaming again. Today, we're going to be ranking all the power-ups in Super Mario Maker 2. These power-ups will be ranked based on how helpful they are to make levels with, and if they can make good levels or not. I'll be putting the level IDs in the description and at the bottom of the screen. We have 16 power-ups to rank, so without further ado, let's get right into it.
Here we go.
Coming in last place, we have the frog suit. The reason I have this thing ranked so low is because it can pretty much only be used in 4 styles. Daytime forest, daytime underwater, nighttime underwater, and nighttime castle. Basically all this thing does is it allows you to swim without mashing the same button over and over, and it allows you to run on water. You might be asking yourself, outside of water levels, what good does this thing have? Oh, and I'll tell you. Absolutely none. Instead of running around like Mario normally does, he hops around, which is painfully slow. Oh yeah, and he jumps a little bit higher. That's it. Outside of water levels, this thing is useless, which is why it's placed last.
Here we go.
In 15th place, we have the propeller mushroom. This thing allows you to fly upward in a vertical motion. You can also twirl back down, but that basically acts as Mario's butt slam. This thing is pretty good for vertical motion, but it sucks for horizontal motion. The fact that it sucks at horizontal motion makes it hard to build a level around this thing, which is why it's so low on this list. It would also be better if you could wall jump after a twirl like you could in New Super Mario Bros. Wii, but they got rid of it. So now whenever I'm trying to wall jump, after I twirl, I always slide off the wall. This power-up is decent, but I think there's better power-ups in the game, which is why I think it deserves 15th place. In 14th place, we have the big mushroom. This thing makes Mario bigger and allows him to crush question blocks, hard blocks, regular blocks, and ice blocks. Along with these 4 things, you can also activate on-off switches and crush chain chomp pose. I think this is more useful than the frog suit and the propeller mushroom, but it is kind of hard to find good uses for it. It would be cooler if it was like the mega mushroom where you could crush everything in your path, but it's not, which is a problem. You see, the problem is that you can only crush things from underneath you when you're jumping, which makes it really hard to build a level around this thing. If it weren't for that, I'd probably rank it higher, but since you can't crush everything in your path, I'd have to rank it 14th. In 13th place, we have the Superstar. This thing makes you invincible and able to defeat enemies by touching them. It also makes you run faster. This thing has 2 main uses, walking on spikes and defeating any enemy in your path. While those can be great if they're used in the right hands, most of the time they're just used for little Timmy levels or refreshing levels. Like these. The only good thing they can really be used for is star speedrun levels, which is why I have it ranked 13th. In 12th place, we have the pea balloon. This one got moved around a lot, but I think I like its placement here. As you can see, this power-up allows you to fly in any direction. The reason I have this thing ranked so low is because it can only really be used well in one type of level, Mario Kart levels. And yes, while the Mario Kart levels are fun, that's basically the only thing this power-up can be used for. I do like the concept though, but it can't really be used for anything outside of Mario Kart levels, which is why I have it placed this low. Next on the list, we have the Super Ball Flower. This thing lets Mario throw a ball that bounces off of walls and can damage enemies and collect coins. Like the pea balloon, this thing only has 1 use, but I think its use is slightly better since it's more fun to use, and also, the song that goes with it is great. The main thing that sucks with this power-up is that it's kinda hard to aim. So if you're gonna put it in your level, then you're gonna need to put markers where you have to stand to shoot the Super Ball. It also kinda sucks that we can only shoot 1 at a time. Waiting for one to load off the screen takes a while. Otherwise, I think it's a decent power-up. And I think this is a pretty good spot for it. Taking the 10th spot, we have the Takuni Leaf. This thing allows you to attack enemies with your tail, glide, and fly. The reason I put it this low on the list is because there's a better version of this power-up in the game, known as the Cape Feather. The flight is easier to use than the Cape Feather, but the Cape Feather does basically everything else better, so I'm gonna have to put it this low. Another reason I put it this low is because the gliding on the Takuni suit is harder to use than on the Cape Feather. This is a good power-up, but there's a better version of it in the game. So I think 10th place is a good spot for it.
Here we go.
In 9th place, we have the Cape Feather. Basically, this thing is the better version of the Takuni suit. It allows you to attack enemies with your cape, and it also allows you to fly and glide. The gliding is easier, and even though the flight is harder, I still think the flight is better than the Takuni suit. In flight mode, you can parachute and you can also dive. If you slam the ground while you're diving, it basically acts like a POW. If you want to make your level based around only one thing, like attacking enemies with your cape, people might be able to skip huge parts of your level with the flight, which is why I have it ranked this low. In 8th place, we have yet another flight power-up, the Super Acorn. This one isn't too similar to the Takuni Leaf or the Cape Feather. It allows you to glide, get a boost in midair, stick to walls, and spin jump higher. Even though it doesn't have as many flight abilities as the Cape Feather does, I still think it's better because it's easier to build a level around it, which is why I think this spot is good for it.
Here we go.
Next on the list, we have the Super Mushroom. This thing doesn't really do much. All it does is make Mario big and gives him a second life. I mean, what would we do without it in Little Timmy levels? It also allows you to break blocks and slam on them if you're playing in one of the newer styles. This power-up is simple, which is why I have it placed this high in this video. In 6th place, we have the Super Hammer. The Super Hammer allows you to smash things with your hammer. You can also throw blocks and defeat enemies with it. This power-up is good because it's easy to build levels around it, and if you build your level right, all it does is whack enemies. The only downside with it is that if you build your level wrong, then people can skip huge parts of your level. Hammer whacking doesn't just destroy things either. It also can activate things like exclamation blocks and on-off blocks. The crates also float on water and lava, and you can destroy them by ground pounding on them or hitting them with your hammer. The reason I have this power-up ranked so high is because it's simple and easy to use and easy to make a level around it. Starting off the top 5, we have the Fire Flower. This thing is simple. All it does is allow you to throw fireballs that can damage enemies and melt frozen coins. The simplicity is pretty good because it doesn't have too many abilities, so it's easier to make a level around it. The level doesn't even have to be based around the Fire Flower, and it can still be a good level. The Fire Flower is a very simple, but yet helpful power-up all at the same time, which is why I think it deserves to be top 5. In 4th place, we have the Boomerang Flower. This power-up is very similar to the Fire Flower, except it throws boomerangs instead of fireballs. The boomerangs can defeat enemies, break blocks, and they can be used well with clear pipes. They can also activate on-off switches and exclamation blocks, and they can collect things like pink coins and regular coins. It's almost like the better version of the Fire Flower. I would have put it in top 3, but the next 3 power-ups are even better than this one, so I had to place it at 4th place. In 3rd place, we have the Super Bell. This thing turns Mario into a cat and allows him to break blocks, climb up walls, attack enemies, and pounce. Now, most of the time on this list, I've said that simplicity makes a power-up good for making levels around, but the complexity of this thing actually makes it good for making a level. It's almost like one of the flight power-ups I mentioned earlier, but with more limitations on flight and less limitations on everything else. This power-up is very complex, but its complexity is useful, so I'm going to have to put it at third place.
Here we go.
In second place, we have the Master Sword. This thing turns Mario into Link and gives him all of Link's abilities, such as attacking enemies with his sword, using his bow and arrow, and throwing bombs. You can also defend against stuff with your shield. You can attack with the sword in many different ways, and you can also aim the bow and arrow. This is a very versatile power-up and can be used for many different things, like trying to snipe big coins as you're falling from the sky, attacking enemies with your sword, and blowing stuff up with Link's bomb. The music also changes to the music from the original Legend of Zelda. This is a very fun power-up to use, and it's also a fun power-up to make your levels around it. This is a good power-up, but it's not as good as the best of the best.
Here we go.
The best power-up in Mario Maker 2 is the SMB2 Mushroom. This thing allows Mario to pick up and throw enemies and items, and it also allows him to jump extra high. You can also dig through cloud blocks. The reason I gave this the #1 spot is because it's a simple power-up, but it can be used in complex ways. It seems to have the right balance between simplicity and complexity. This power-up is very fun to use and very fun to make a level around. It also fits the Mario Bros. 1 style well, since you can't grab anything in that style. And that is why I think the SMB2 Mushroom is the best power-up in Mario Maker 2. Well, thanks for watching everyone. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you enjoyed, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.